Number 9. Katie Malone. For her 29th birthday, San Diego woman Katie Malone went parasailing in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. At some point during the ride, the rope connecting her to the boat broke and she flew untethered for 45 minutes. Malone eventually crashed into a local airport building, sustaining severe injuries. The woman was left with 4 fractured ribs, a collapsed lung, fractures to her skull and pelvis, as well as a broken jaw and cheekbone. Her pituitary gland had increased in size tenfold, and after being treated at a local hospital, she was airlifted to her home state for further surgery. Over a dozen screws were required to reset her bones, and a titanium mesh was implanted in her skull. Fortunately, Malone would eventually make a full recovery. Number 8. Glenn Hudson. In 2010, Glenn Hudson and his daughter Emma were on a tandem parasailing ride in Turkey. They'd been flying for about 10 minutes and Glenn was telling his daughter about his past parasailing experiences. Moments later, the 50-year-old's harness suddenly snapped. He suffered a fatal 150-foot fall onto the beach below. To put that drop into perspective, it would be like falling from the top of the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. Glenn died upon impact. The owner of the company and the boat's driver were subsequently jailed for criminal negligence. Parasailing is a recreational activity in which a person is attached to a parachute-like canopy and towed by a boat, a car, or a 4x4 truck. A tow rope connects the parasail pilot to the vehicle, and as it drives off, they're lifted into the air at considerable heights. While somewhat similar to a parachute, the parasail is more stable and better suited for the ascent. The pilot has minimal or no control over steering. Parasailing is fundamentally a recreational ride, whereas parachutes are used in skydiving and enable the pilot to fully control steering. It's also different from paragliding, where pilots adjust their wing in accordance with sources of lift. Parasailing can involve a single rider, a tandem ride, or 3 people, depending on weight restrictions, the size of the canopy, and the power of the boat. If the instructions are respected and safety standards are met, parasailing can be a thrilling activity. However, a number of accidents have occurred, and some have had fatal outcomes. Number 7. Roger Hussey. In 2017, as he was visiting Kata Beach in Phuket, Thailand, Roger Hussey decided to try out parasailing. Shortly after taking off, the 71-year-old Australian man accidentally unbuckled his harness and fell into the shallow water below. Hussey waved his arms as he rose, but when he placed them back on the harness, it's believed that he squeezed the release clips. The fall happened before dozens of horrified onlookers, including Hussey's Thai-born wife, who was filming him from the beach. The 100-foot drop was fatal. The parasailing company admitted to operating the boat without a technician on board, which is illegal. In the accident's aftermath, shocking footage emerged of the operator's staff engaged in dangerous behavior. They rode the rigging's worn straps alongside tourists while barefooted and wearing no safety equipment whatsoever. Number 6. Sidney Good and Alexis Fairchild. In July of 2013, Sidney Good and Alexis Fairchild went on a parasailing ride while vacationing in Panama City, Florida. The girls, both 17 at the time, were caught in strong winds as they reached roughly 1,000 feet, a height comparable to that of the Eiffel Tower. Then the tow rope snapped and the Indiana teenagers drifted helplessly through the air. They crashed into the 13th floor of a condominium before falling to the parking lot below and landing on parked cars. They were taken to a hospital in critical condition. Both had suffered multiple fractures, as well as severe head and spine injuries that required titanium plates and screws to mend. Good suffered permanent damage to her vision that would prevent her from ever driving again. The brain damage they sustained caused them to read at a grade school level. Still, the teens made a surprising recovery and even walked on stage for their high school graduation. The origins of parasailing can be traced back to the 1960s, and it began as a training exercise for parachutists. It enabled them to practice their landings, as they would be jumping from a plane, only considerably cheaper since they were being towed. The ascending gliding parachute was trademarked as the Parasail in 1963 by the Pioneer Parachute Company. From that point on, the canopy continued to be improved, and a retractable hydraulic winch was added to retrieve the parasail and its pilot. Nowadays, parasailing operators can be found anywhere in the world. but they tend to be more common in areas that provide stunning aerial views of natural landscapes. Some of the most popular parasailing destinations include the coastal areas of the Maldives, Fiji, California, the Florida Keys, and the Caribbean. In Europe, land parasailing has developed into a competitive sport where the driver of a 4x4 releases the line and the pilot flies down to a target area. Number 5. Anthony and Grace Nesbitt. 20-year-old Anthony Nesbitt and his younger sister Grace narrowly escaped with their lives after a parasailing accident in Malta. They were caught in a freak storm that snapped the tow rope attached to their boat. The watercraft itself was battered by strong waves and pushed dangerously close to the shore. The siblings tried not to panic as the wind swept them inland. Anthony told his sister that they should use their feet to break the fall. After they landed, the parasail dragged them for several feet, but as they slowed down, people intervened and detached them from the canopy. Amazingly, they survived their ordeal with only some cuts and bruises. Number 4. Nicholas Hayward. In July of 2020, Nicholas Hayward and his girlfriend, Azalia Silva, were involved in a brutal parasailing accident in Florida's Key West. It's been reported that the boat's captain had a cowboy attitude and took the couple out in spite of harsh weather. According to other passengers on the boat, he ignored their screams to slow down as waves battered the watercraft. The winds were estimated at 34 miles per hour, and Florida laws prohibit parasailing if they're over 25. The tandem parasail managed to rise, but was then violently thrown to the water by a powerful gust of wind. 36-year-old Hayward was pronounced dead at the scene, while Silva, who was airlifted to a hospital in critical condition, survived. A lawsuit against the parasailing operator was subsequently filed on behalf of Hayward's 10-year-old son and his mother. A significant number of parasailing-related deaths have occurred as the result of unplanned landings in water during unfavorable weather conditions. In such cases, the riders drowned as they were not able to get out of their safety harness. In other cases, the parasail was caught in strong winds and caused the riders to collide with rocks and other structures. Another potentially fatal occurrence is failure of the tow rope or of the safety harness. They can cause the rider to plummet from heights of several hundred feet. Hitting the water as a result of such a drop is comparable to falling on concrete. That's because the water can't be displaced fast enough to cushion the fall. Such an impact may result in multiple fractures and fatal damage to internal organs. Some parasailing operators take riders up to 1,000 feet or more. A safety harness failure at this height would cause the rider to free fall at speeds in excess of 100 miles per hour. Striking the water under these conditions completely dismantles the human body. Number 3. Margaret Beaman and Lisa Smith. In October of 2008, friends Margaret Beaman and Lisa Smith were celebrating a birthday in Riviera Maya, south of the Mexican resort town of Cancun. The women decided to take part in a parasailing experience. Unfortunately, while they were high in the air, the rope connecting the rigging to the boat snapped. Winds pushed the canopy into the water in a rocky area. It then caught air again and finally became trapped in a palm tree. Beaman and Smith succumbed to severe head and body trauma. The blame for the accident rested with the boat's captain, as the area had been closed off to navigation due to harsh weather. Today's topic was requested by Instagram follower Holly Faith Odell. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below, or follow us on Instagram and reach out to us there. Number 2. Kathleen Miskell. In August of 2012, a worn-out parasailing harness caused 28-year-old Kathleen Miskell to suffer a fatal fall. The incident happened off Florida's Pompano Beach. At the time, Miskell was strapped into a tandem ride with her husband, Stephen. When the harness failure occurred, the man could do nothing but watch helplessly as Kathleen free-fell roughly 200 feet. She was later found floating face down in the water. Rescuers attempted CPR, but it was already too late. According to a coroner's report, the woman had suffered massive blunt force trauma and cardiac arrest. While it has grown in popularity in the past decades, parasailing has been criticized for being poorly regulated. Safety concerns include operators who carry out parasailing experiences in spite of hazardous weather, compromised tow ropes, and poorly maintained safety equipment. This is why it's crucial to select a professional operator with a good safety record. follow their instructions, as tampering with the equipment while at height may have fatal consequences. If the rope breaks, there's little you can do to steer the parasail, but barring strong winds, it will descend like a regular parachute. Make sure to break your fall with your feet as you hit land and disconnect the harness. Professional operators will keep a considerable distance from the shore, which means that you're likely to land in water. If this happens, keep calm and trust the life jacket to keep you afloat. Move slowly and deliberately so as to avoid getting tangled in the canopy. In the event of harness failure, safety is relative to the height at which failure occurs and the depth of the water below. To minimize damage, the proper form should involve falling perpendicularly, feet first, with the arms and elbows tucked in. Join the They Will Kill You team by rocking the latest merch from theywillkillyou.com. Order yours today to be one of the first to spread the word. Number 1. Mark Mitrofanov. While vacationing in Turkey's Antalya resort, 18-year-old Mark Mitrofanov lost his life in a parasail ride gone wrong. The Russian teenager was on a tandem canopy with his mother, Tatiana, when the towing cable broke, roughly 200 feet above sea level. Winds carried the canopy inland, and consequently, the mother and son crashed into the grounds of a beachside hotel, striking a palm tree. Tatiana survived the collision with a blackened eye and cuts on her face. Mark's injuries, however, were far more severe. The teenager sustained severe head trauma, and he died on the operating table. Thanks for watching. Would you rather go parasailing with an operator that has a bad safety record, or jump out of a car going 50 miles per hour? Let us know in the comments section below.